Welcome to another edition of the Jarrod Thomas Show podcast, and I get fired up for all of them, but this one was one that I've been waiting on for some time. Now that implies that Jamie was unavailable or whatever. Let me be very clear. It wasn't that. It was matching up schedules wasn't that big of a deal. I mean, we got that handled pretty easily. But I wanted to make sure that when we did this, that we were able to give it the time to do it, because I think your story is absolutely incredible. This to my left is Jamie Selzler. Very quickly, my recollection of how we met was we have a mutual friend. His name is Eric Eichard. Mm-hmm. And Eric was in Grand Forks at the time. He's been gone decades now.
In Michigan now.
Yeah, and he's been gone for a long time. And I faintly remember deep in the recesses of my brain that we were together, I think Buffalo Wild Wings of all places. And this is how I get to know Jamie. Now, Jamie, as the story goes, gets himself involved in North Dakota politics. And so we had some dealings in a professional setting, so to speak, because I've been a talk show host and in media for a while. And Jamie, of course, handled some of that, as I think, at least at points, has been the face of the Democratic Party. Yeah. And so, Jamie, if you need to talk to a guy or a gal or somebody's running for office, hey, Jamie, could you ever get me and Jamie does a really nice job at the time of not only getting the platform out there, but then connecting the dots for guys like me. All right. So Jamie and I have been, I think, cordial through the years and realize that, we have similar personalities. There's a lot of things that and so again, we've just been cordial. Jamie takes a job with Amazon. That takes Jamie out of North Dakota. Mm-hmm. So Jamie sort of, doesn't disappear, still active on the socials and all the things. So
Into
Jamie,
the wind.
Yeah. So Jamie's around, right? But he's not in North Dakota. Yeah. And then I remember it was a Facebook post or a Twitter, Instagram, something, where he's like, hey, and if I remember correctly, he had a chance to come back to North Dakota. It seemed like at the time, yeah, the world is nice and I got to see a good piece of it, but North Dakota's home. Yep. Maybe I'd consider coming back. So you came back. Mm-hmm. But here's the part. So that's a very truncated of that. But it helps me get to what I'm geeked up to talk about is you I think you shared on social media at one point weighed 650 pounds. So the very first question I have for you, and quite obviously if you look into your screen and if you're just listening to this, Jamie shared just recently that for the first time really in your adult life, you're under 300 pounds.
Yeah, just under 300. First time since I was 15. I'm 47 now.
Try to work that through the hamster wheel. The very first question that I had when I was watching, and I've watched and I've consumed as much of the content, and I either missed it or you haven't shared it, so I'll ask you now. What was the thing? What was the thing that made you go, enough? I can't do this anymore. Something has to change.
Well, first of all, thanks for having me.
Well, yeah,
I appreciate it. I think you last interviewed me maybe 13 to 15 years ago.
Oh, so, wow.
Back when I was in Grand Forks. So it's really three things that happened all around the same time. The biggest one, the final straw, was that I got stuck on a toilet. I used the toilet as we do, and I couldn't get up. I was too weak to get up off the toilet. That, and I thought, am I going to die this way? Not like right now. I knew I'd figure it out, but is it going to be some terrible situation like this? That happened just a few weeks after my little sister's wedding, which I officiated on the beach in Florida. I've officiated 7 weddings. I'm now retired, so you cannot ask me. I'm very cheap. I just work for beer, is what I say. And so I officiated a wedding. It was on the beach in Florida, and I had not been on the beach. I don't think ever. The beach in Florida is very different than, the beach out at the lake. And so at one point I fell, and I'm stuck on the beach, and it's this white fluffy sand, and I couldn't get up. Like, I physically couldn't get up. And I was terrified that I was surrounded by people. It wasn't just the wedding party. It was like just regular people out there, and terrified that someone was going to film me and I was going to be the beached whale. And we see this.
You were going to go viral for all the wrong reasons.
People become viral memes all the time, and we never stop and think that that's an actual real person. And so fortunately, there was this guy there who was 50 years old, amateur power lifter, and he was able to get me up by some miracle. That happened 2 weeks after, or 2 weeks before that was the first of the 3 final straws, which is I'd had dinner with a friend of mine and his wife and a group of us, and he's in his 70s. And we were leaving his place. They'd made dinner, and we were going out to our cars, and he pulled me aside and said, keep in mind, this guy's in his early 70s. He says, Jamie, I want you to go to my funeral. I don't want to go to yours. And when a guy who's in his 70s says that you, who's 43, he's going to be at your funeral, all of those things happen at once. And I realized no one my size was alive in their 50s. And as I had those mobility issues, I realized my worst case wasn't dying before 50, which would have been sad. It was that my final few years were going to be horrifically bad. They were going to be total lack of mobility. I was going to be laying in a bed. I'd already not been going out. And you know me, I'm an extrovert. I'm an extreme extrovert.
You're about as social gets.
Yeah, I like being around people, and I couldn't go out anymore. And so all that kind of happened at the same time. And I just said, you know what? If I'm going to die young, at least I'm going to die trying to get out of this. And that was just over 3 years ago. And wow. I've now lost over 350 pounds.
So, okay. If you can remember, I'm sure you can, take us all the way back to day 1. All right. So you've made this decision. I'm guessing that at points in your life, you've made this decision before. Mm-hmm. So you wake up, day 1, what's different? What this time? You describe the 3 incidents. And sadly, and for those of you that have never been morbidly obese, I have, and am by all FDA and clinical matters. You would think that you would grab onto that and you would hold it and it wouldn't fade, right? So you're laying on the beach and it's horrific and it's, oh my God, if I got to get up because if I don't, I'm going to
be famous.
And then one day you're going to be walking someplace and people are going, look at that guy. He's right here. And then you're going to be horrified. But the thing of it is that it fades. Like, so you get home, you get to your day 1. So what changed? I mean, what snapped you into, dang, I got to do this?
The first thing I did, and I've now created a mindset. I have these 4 rules that I follow. That it's not like I woke up one day and said, hey, I'm going to start following these 4 rules. But as I looked back over the course of time, I realized these are the things I had been doing. But the first one I did was very intentional, and that's what I did on day 1, which is I said that I am going to start keeping the promises I make to myself. We are really good about keeping promises we make to other people. We generally do it. I mean, that's what vows are. When we make a vow to someone that we love, it's a promise, and we keep them generally. We are really good about breaking the promises we make to ourselves because we are not accountable to anyone else in that case. And I realized that my life had been, and I'm not alone in this, my life had been a series of broken promises to myself. I had so many, I'm going to start Monday. Then Monday's great. And then Tuesday's not as great, but okay. Wednesday's like, I've been good for a couple of days. And now Wednesday, I'm back at B-dubs, and which I still go to, by the way, but just not like I used to. And so I said at that moment, I'm going to keep promises I make to myself because you prove your love to someone by keeping a promise. And we should love ourselves. And I do love myself, even if I don't always show it.
Sure.
But I said I'm going to keep the promises I make. And so to do that, you should only make promises that you know you can keep. And so on day 1, the first promise I made to myself was that I deleted all of the food delivery apps on my phone. And the promise wasn't that I wasn't going to order that stuff because once I became essentially homebound, I was DoorDash or Uber Eats or Pizza Hut, whatever was at my door twice a day. And so I said, I'm not going to promise I'm not going to order that. I'm just going to delete the apps. And so every time I want to order that, I have to go through the trouble of re-downloading it and signing in. And that didn't stop me from eating like that. It did slow it down. And so then I began to lose a little bit of weight because I was just forced to eat a little bit better because the laziness of not wanting to download the app kind of overrode everything else. But that was the first thing I did the next day. And it's what I've done every day since.
Wow. Okay. So we make the promises to ourselves. And I saw a video of you. Now it's been, I think you shared 3.5, 4 years of this journey.
It's over 3 years now. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So we're over 3 years. The weight is coming off. Do you have more that you want to lose?
It's an interesting question. One of the things that I've done throughout this process, and it kind of goes back to keeping promises, where I only do things that I can do forever. Often when we want to lose weight, and I've done this, I mean, I've lost 100 pounds and regained 100 pounds many times over the years, or less than that. But and it's often because we do things to lose weight, and then once we either get to a goal or we are losing long enough, we then sort of start changing things. And it's the time you change it when it's really problematic for you. And so I only do things that I can do forever. And so because of that, I don't actually have a goal weight. I've never had a goal weight. That's another thing that's different than all the times I've done this before. I remember meeting with my doctor early on, because I also use GLP-1 medication, which I want to talk about. I didn't start it right away, and my doctor said, at this point I was 600 when I was talking to him about this. He asked what my goal weight was. I said I didn't have one. He said, what weight would you be okay with, like satisfied with? I said 400 pounds. Because when you're 600, 650, 400 skinny at that point. And so I have never had a goal weight because I can't control my weight. By that I mean I can't pick the number on the scale. So I only do things I can do forever, and my thought process this whole time is that at some point I will stop losing weight, doing what I know I can do forever, and then that's what my weight's going to be. So right now I'm about 295. I suspect I'll probably lose another 50 pounds, maybe. I have to have skin removal, which is going to be 25 pounds right there. I'll stop losing whenever I'm going to stop. If I never lost another pound, I would be happy right now.
Amy, do you know why you ate or why you got to 650? So again, I'm a guy that I was 437 pounds, and at my lowest got to 238. COVID came along. Now I can blame COVID. Not fair to COVID. COVID didn't grab a spoon, and COVID didn't. It wasn't COVID.
COVID didn't make me order a whole Dairy Queen ice cream cake.
COVID didn't do the thing. So let's just. And at the interest of ripping open a vein, because that's a little bit what we're doing here today. I didn't get to the reasons why I ate. So what happened for me was I lost the weight. I felt good. Which is something else you can talk about, the adoration. Oh my God, do you look good? Which, by the way, also implies
you didn't look good before.
I look like a big old pile
I've
before.
Been sexy since I was 650 pounds. I've always looked good.
I'm sorry, you're the last to know.
When someone says you look so good, my response is always the same. Thank you. I feel really good.
Yeah. Yes.
I like to joke that doctors have wanted to study me. They do not people look at me, to your point, like why I got that big, and people looked at me at that size, or look at pictures of me now and say, like, how is it possible for a man to get to 650 pounds and still be that good looking? And I don't know the answer to it. No. So I recently I went to this conference and they discussed obesity there, and a doctor, one of the preeminent experts in obesity, spoke and said that people think that you are obese because you overeat, that you become obese. And the reality is obesity is a disease, and it's being recognized as a disease. And you overeat because you're obese. And I'm not a doctor, but I am convinced that we have a food environment now. And you and I are about the same age. We grew up at the same time where everything became low fat. And they made it low fat by taking the fat out, which is flavor, and pumping in sugar to make things taste good. And I think I'm convinced I'm a sugar addict. I started gaining weight when I was 9 years old. I remember going down to the cities over Christmas break, my sister and I, to hang out with my grandparents. And we had never really had a lot of soda before then. And my grandparents said, hey, out in the garage, we have a fridge. Anytime you want a soda, go grab one. And they had like a fridge full of Shasta.
Oh,
and
boy.
I think I was out there probably 20 times a day just pounding the Shasta. And when I came back after 2 or 3 weeks, like I was noticeably larger. And that was the moment where I stopped spending my allowance money on baseball cards and started spending it on Mountain Dew and candy bars. And that's when my weight started to go up over time. And I think that some of us are genetically predisposed to being bigger. And we have an environment where those who are more likely to be obese can now be in an environment where they're going to eat food or drink drinks that are not good for them. And I think that's what started it for me. If you look through my family, there are a number of folks who have obesity, and that's part of it for me. Now, you throw that, a genetic predisposition, which isn't going to guarantee someone's going to have weight problems, but makes it more likely. And you throw in things like any sort of childhood trauma can affect it later on. And
Sure.
So I've explored some of that stuff. Things like emotional eating, where I discovered I was an emotional eater. And I did not know that I was an emotional eater. But we talked about how I'd been very politically active in North Dakota, and then I worked for Amazon. And I started moving. I moved all over the world. I moved 10 times in about 11 years. I moved from North Dakota to Kentucky to back to North Dakota to Eastern Washington to Seattle to London, England, back to Washington, back to North Dakota. And every time I moved, I didn't know anyone. I was pretty lonely and would just go out to some restaurant by myself or order in a lot. And so you kind of take these things where they just compound on top of each other. And then COVID, same thing, COVID happened. And I was working 80 hours a week during COVID. And as you can imagine, Amazon got really busy and I was working from home. And
I'd say
all I did was work and order delivery, because that's also when all the meal delivery started. And during COVID, fortunately, I didn't really drink ever. And so if I had thrown alcohol on top of that, I'm sure it would have been even worse. But I think that's where it was a combination of some genetic stuff, some stuff that you're dealing with as you get older from being a kid, and then emotional eating, depending on whatever environment you're in.
Do you fear putting the weight back on?
No, I have changed my mindset and my lifestyle in every single way. I use a GLP-1 medication, and if I stopped taking that, I would likely regain weight. I don't think I'd regain 350 pounds, but I would regain.
So let me, if I can, stop you.
Yep.
Dive a little deeper into GLP-1. Yep. Is that, so we should talk a little bit about that, how that works. Does that require a doctor's prescription, or is that something I can just walk up to any pharmacy in the planet and say, give me that, and they'll say $22 million, please, and then we all move on. Or can you talk a little bit about that and how that came into your life?
Yeah. So GLP-1 stands for glucagon-like peptide 1. I knew that. Yep, I'm sure you did. Yep. I did as well before I started. And it's a hormone in your body. And basically what GLP-1 is when you eat, it's a signal, it's a hormone excreted by your stomach that goes to your brain that says, hey, you're full now, you're done eating. The thing is it disappears quickly. But for most people who don't have weight problems, they get the trigger that says, oh, I'm done eating now. And then they stop eating. And then they go about their day. And if they get hungry a little bit later, they don't eat again because they know they just ate. In my case, and in many cases, that's not good enough. And so you can take a weekly injection. You've heard it's Ozempic. I don't use Ozempic. There are a number of types of them out there. But Ozempic is the one that it's the one they recognize. And so it does a few things for everyone. But for me, what it does, it fixes some metabolic issues. It fixes some insulin resistance. So this began as a medication for diabetes. And they found that diabetics who were taking it were losing a lot of weight. In my case, it quiets the food noise. And you know what food noise is.
I do.
Some folks listening or watching probably don't. And a food noise is sort of this incessant, almost voice in your head where you're thinking about food. And a few ways that I describe this to people are, if you are eating lunch on a Tuesday, you might be thinking about, what am I going to have for dinner on Friday? And then should I do something for breakfast on Saturday? And this is on a Tuesday, you're thinking about this. Let's say Girl Scout cookies are a great example. If you get Girl Scout cookies, which many of us do because we want to help our friends, and you have them in the pantry, if you have food noise, you're thinking about those Girl Scout cookies. You know that they're there. And you begin negotiating with yourself where I'm just going to have one now. And then you go and have the one, and then, okay, I just had one earlier, I can have another one.
I had some food noise, if you will, just today. So I had breakfast. Big breakfast guy, like breakfast. I have a very structured breakfast, so that's not to say I overate breakfast or anything. I just had breakfast. Came to work. Well, we have donuts here on Fridays. I know that. We have our sales meeting. Some days I eat donuts, some days I don't. This particular day, of all things, the bathroom is in close proximity to the break room. So as I go to the bathroom, I shoot a look to my left, more to see what salespeople are screwing off than anything else. So I
go make that money.
I shoot a look to the left, and I see the donuts sitting there.
Yeah.
Go to the bathroom, do my business. As I'm washing my hands, I think,
negotiating.
Absolutely right. In between these two ears that some of you are looking at, it's a big head, so there's quite the distance.
I wasn't going to say.
There's a lot of chatter going on about. I mean, if you have a donut though, just have one is what I'm telling myself, right? But here's where it gets. So I've got another meeting at 9:30. It's a corporate managers meeting, so it's every Friday. So I've got that meeting. So it's about 9-ish. I'm in between meetings. I've got a half hour. So I go and I get a paper towel and I pick a donut. I go to my office. I eat my donut. Now here's the thing. So 9:30 I have a meeting. At 10:30 I have a meeting. So I have it. So it gets to be about 11:35. I have a lunch date with my wife at noon. At 11:35, food noise is like, hey, you've got one more protein bar up in your cabinet there. Keep that for your mid-morning snack, which, of course, would have been hoodwinked or wiped out by the donut that I ate at 9. So I thought, wow, I mean, if you let it sit there, it's going to be there through the weekend. Now, just so you know, protein bars have enough preservatives in them anyway.
They'll last for a year.
That protein bar will probably be there on my retirement day and slightly edible, depending on where you're at in that thing. And so I thought, wow, I better take care of that. And then I went home and had lunch. And all the while, the other thing about that too is that, like, the guilt sets in, the shame maybe sets in. I mean, it's a mind screw of some epic proportions. And you know, I shared earlier that I lost a lot of weight, but the part that I didn't work on was the reasons why.
Yeah.
And you know that I find that interesting about your story. Do you just avoid sugar then?
So I've named my food noise's name is Timmy. And the reason I call it Timmy is because if you do not understand food noise, this will hopefully help you. Let's pretend that you have a kid named Timmy, and you take Timmy to the grocery store with you, and you're going to buy stuff for dinner that night. And Timmy sees the candy bar or whatever it is that Timmy wants, and Timmy's asked for it, and you say no. And Timmy starts throwing a temper tantrum. Timmy starts screaming and crying and hitting the ground, and classic temper tantrum. You as a parent can decide, I'm going to give in, even though I know it's not the right thing to do, but if I do it, he'll be quiet and I can go about my day. Or I can try to just power my way through this where you can't even focus because he's throwing the temper tantrum. And I don't care who you are, parents understand. They'll give in to Timmy just to make it stop.
Yep.
And so that's food noise. For me, GLP-1, Ozempic, is like leaving Timmy at home. I used to say putting Timmy up for adoption, but someone said it's kind of dark. But it's probably not as relevant because Timmy could come back. So the GLP-1's like leaving Timmy at home. So now I don't have that noise anymore, and I can just make better decisions. that was and it took a little while. It took a few months before that went away. But in my case, what I realized is that's when I learned that I am an emotional eater, where I realized that if I have a great day, I want to celebrate with food. Like, oh, let's get a pizza, whatever. If I had a bad day, I'd want to mourn with food. If I were bored, you eat. If I were lonely, whatever it was, like I realized whatever emotions I had. So once the food noise went away, if I ever had that moment where I wanted the donut or I wanted whatever, now, ever since then, I started GLP-1 2 years and 3 months ago. Now, whenever I have that feeling, I can actually have a little conversation with myself and say, okay, why are you feeling this way?
Sure.
Do you want this because you're legitimately hungry? And if so, eat. That's why I still eat pizza. I still go to B-dubs. I still do all the stuff I did before. I just do it way less often now. Because now I realize, okay, I actually want to eat that donut because I'm kind of having a bad day. And in the past, that donut is what I would have done to make myself feel better. And now that's actually not what I want. I know that's not what I want because I'm not actually hungry. I already ate. What can I do instead? And now I just choose things that are healthier options. Most of the time, go for a little walk or drink some water or whatever. And for those who sort of trash the GLPs or the Ozempics or think it's the easy way out, for them, it would be the easy way out because they don't deal with the thing that we've dealt with,
right?
And that many people listening. So for them, they can just shut off the food noise because they don't have it or they rarely have it. And all I ask for people to do to understand is have a little empathy because just because your experience is different than someone else's doesn't mean they're taking the easy way out. And so I sort of respect that for them, it would be easy. And so for them taking a medication to help with their weight, they shouldn't. They don't need it, but I do. And that's why I've become such an advocate, not for people to take a medication, but for people to talk with a medical provider to see if it's right for them or not.
How did you and your medical provider make the decision that this would be a good choice for you?
After I had those incidents where I talked about, I was 650 pounds. I actually lost 50 pounds in about a year, just the old-fashioned way. By eating less, I was barely moving, so at the beginning, so even walking a few minutes a day was a lot. And I lost 50 pounds in a year, which is a lot, but at 650 pounds, it's not a lot. The problem is the whole time I was in a battle in my head because the food noise never went away and often would get worse. And I was constantly fighting this. And in the past, I'd had a doctor here in Grand Forks who had talked to me about potential bariatric surgery. And I didn't want to do it because I remember saying, well, that's the easy way out. I can do this on my own. And I was a little scared as well.
It's a major surgery, by the way.
It is a major surgery. Yeah. But, in hindsight, I wish I would have done it 15 years ago. I had no clue. I knew you'd feel better if you lose weight. I did not have any idea I would feel this much better. And so I talked with my doctor about it, who's an obesity specialist who does all sorts of things to treat folks. He's a fantastic doctor in Fargo. He talked about, well, this is working for folks out there. I started looking into it, and I knew that I was going to regain. I did a thing, I'm not going to say where. When I lived in Grand Forks in 2015, I did a medical weight loss thing here, and I lost 100 pounds in 3 months.
Wow.
I know it happened two ways. One, it was an incredibly restrictive diet with lots of meal replacements, like shakes and bars. You had to do a weekly weigh-in.
Sure.
Here in Grand Forks.
Accountability, yeah.
And so I discovered that the only thing more powerful than my desire for bad food is my ego of showing up and not having gained weight. And so I lost a lot of weight that way. And I lost a lot of muscle because I wasn't lifting weights. And so I burned through my muscle. Lost 100 pounds. Then I moved. Amazon moved me for work to Washington State. Now I'm in this new place. I lose the only thing that was keeping me on track, which is having to face someone every week, regain the 100 pounds in 3 months. So I lost and gained 100 pounds in the course of 6 months. And that was the moment where my weight gain started to skyrocket. Because I lost the muscle, I destroyed my metabolism. And so now I could eat the same exact thing as I ate before, but now I'm burning so many fewer calories because your muscle's really metabolically active. And so that's why, as I encourage people to say this is the easy way out, is you lose weight. It's not just about eating less. I mean, that's how you lose weight, but you got to keep your muscle at the same time, which I've done this time, fortunately. But anyway, yeah, so it's the medication for me has made a huge difference. I just started by talking with my doctor and saying, like, what are my options? And this is something I'll likely have to be on for the rest of my life, which some people criticize. But if I have a medical condition, which I believe that I do, and I have a medical treatment for it, if someone has to be on blood pressure medication or statins or whatever the rest of their life, we don't really judge them for that. And my view is that a few years ago, the rest of my life was going to be 5 years of torture. No medication, rest of my life, torture, dead by 50. Or now, I truly believe I've added 30 years to my life, at least. And if I have to take a medication every week for the rest of my life, but now I get 30 more years or 40 more years, and I get to live in a totally normal body, moving my body the way that I want, easiest decision I've ever made, regardless of what anyone thinks about it.
The movement piece.
Yeah.
I saw the other day, I think you were on, if I recall correctly, a 7-mile walk.
Oh, yeah, it's easy every day.
First of all, how long does it take you? And then in the winter, do you go inside or do you just put more clothes on, or does it just depend?
Well, I get cold a lot faster now.
Yeah.
It's people like, any downsides to losing weight? I say two. One, I watch less TV because I don't sit on the couch all day like I used to. And I get cold really fast compared to what I used to be. So when it comes to walking, I now walk at least 12,000 steps a day, which is about 7.5 miles. So between 12 and 15,000. I'm typically walking about 9 miles a day total. And 3 years ago, JT, swear to you, 20 feet, I'd be out of breath. Like walking here from my car in the parking lot to the door, I would have walked in trying to catch my breath for whatever, not very far. And that was like all the time. And so when I started walking, I weightlift and I walk. I didn't start walking a lot until I lost well over 100 pounds because I couldn't. And I realized, and I think if you want to fail at any sort of health, any sort of effort to lose weight, here's how you fail. You start all the things at once. So you say on January 1st or on Monday, whatever it is, I'm going to start eating better, and I'm going to start working out, I'm going to start walking and drink my water and go to sleep, all the stuff we know you're supposed to do. When you try to do all of it at once, you will fail.
Absolutely.
So the reality is that if you could do all those things, you wouldn't be in the situation you're in the first place.
Yep.
So I just started with one thing. And in terms of walking, I realized they'd say do 10,000 steps a day. Well, I can't even walk 50 steps. I just started walking a little bit more than I did the day before. So if I walk 20 feet till I'm out of breath, well, I'm going to walk 30 feet now. And it shocked me how quickly my stamina built up when walking and how fast my body adapted to more steps. And so I started doing 1,000 steps a day total, and then added 100 a week until 1,100, 1,200. Now I can do 2,000. Okay, I'm going to pump it up to 2,500. So a year ago this time I was walking 8,000 steps a day, which is about 5 miles. And then January 1st, I bumped that up to 10,000. And I walk indoors. So it's me and the 70-year-old grandmas in the mall walking all day. And also there's a great indoor in Fargo. The Fargo Park District owns a facility, awesome indoor track that's free. Very similar to what Choice has here, at least what they used to have when I lived here previously. And so I do the indoor track, or I'm going to get a walking pad, a treadmill this winter. And so it takes me about 18 to 20 minutes per mile, so about an hour and a half. So what I do at this point, I walk for 20 to 30 minutes right away in the morning. Every time I eat, I walk for 10 minutes after I eat. Good for digestion. It's also a habit now, so it's normal. Whatever time I'm allocated to eat, I just shorten it and I walk for the last 10. And then I typically do one long walk a day that's about an hour or so, hour and 15 minutes. And that gets me up to where, like a 7-mile hike is nothing. At this point, I'm doing 13 and 14-mile hikes. And by the end of this year, we're recording this in early October. By the end of this year, probably by the end of November, I'm going to do a 20-mile hike. Like that is my goal. People ask like, what's your goal weight? I said, I don't have a number on the scale I care about. My number is 20. I'm going to do a 20-mile hike. And that's going to be a pretty big deal when it happens.
Do you care to run? You ever want to go jog or do a 5K?
I've never heard of, what's this called?
So
Running?
The answer's
I don't do any cardio. I mean, other than walking, if you consider walking cardio. And I've lost 350 pounds in the last 3 years, and I've broken a sweat 5 times. I never sweat in the gym. The only time I ever sweat is when I'm walking outside and it's 90 and I'm like melting.
That's all of us. Yeah.
I don't do any cardio. Like, you'll never see me on a machine at the gym or the elliptical or stair climber. Oh God, you'll never see me on that. I lift weights and I walk, and that's it. And so a few weeks ago, I ran because I always tell people I don't do cardio. You'll never see me running. But I was walking along in this park, and somehow I walked through some like wasp nest. And next thing you know, I have like surrounded by wasps.
Hail, the gang's all here.
Pretty much. And I started running, which I have not run since high school. And I was surprised at how easily I could run. Like, there's some things that you just don't know you can do after you've been a lot bigger. Like, I didn't know I could cross my legs till I tried. I'm like, oh wow, that's easy. I can cross my legs. But I ran for probably about a minute, and I got away from the wasps. And I thought, well, it was fun. I guess I won't run again for a couple more years. And so, no, I don't run. I don't jog. People think to lose weight, you have to go out and jog all the time. No, you don't have to do that. Yeah. You have to eat better, and you have to keep your muscle. That's really all you got to do.
So, with your diet, do you have a calorie goal you keep your eye on? Do you just do you have somebody that helps you plan your meals, or how does that work for you?
So I encourage people. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a dietitian. I encourage people to consult a dietitian, a registered dietitian. If they don't have access to one, and nutritionists are great. Dietitians are the way to go. Insurance will often pay for them, because your insurance company, if they can pay for a dietitian that helps you lose weight, then they're going to save money in the long run. So check with your insurance provider. But so I started with a dietitian, and because I only do things I can do forever, I am at the same calories now that I've been for the last few years. And so I eat between 2,500 and 2,800 calories a day, because I know I can eat that way forever. And I don't do any like specific diet, because I only want to do things I can do forever. People often ask, do you do keto, or, name the diet of the day? And I don't, because I can't go my whole life without carbs. I friggin' love carbs. And so if I lost weight by cutting out carbs, all that means is I will then regain the weight when I start eating carbs again. I remember in early 2000s, I did the Atkins diet and lost a bunch of weight. And it was kind of fun just eating steak every day. But eventually you have to start eating like a normal human being again. Yeah. So I just do a lot of whole natural foods. So I prioritize protein, a lot of protein. It's like a part-time job. And chicken, ground beef, eggs, egg whites, cottage cheese, stuff like that. I do a lot of rice and a lot of vegetables. And then I supplement. I drink 1 protein shake a day and 1 protein bar a day. And that gets me about where I need to be for everything. I go out to eat probably once a week or every other week. I'll go out, and I sort of joke that, the GLP, the Ozempic, it really does. I still get hungry, but it really suppresses your appetite. And I joke, you could put every bit of Ozempic in the world inside of me, but you put me in front of a Mexican restaurant and I'm going to eat all the chips and salsa. You bring me to the Parrots K, I'm shouting you out, so you should sponsor me.
Yes.
I go to the Parrots K, and it does not matter, and I will eat. It's my favorite restaurant in the whole world, and I've lived all over the world. I can go there and just go crazy. So if I still lived in Grand Forks, I would have to be cautious about going there. But yeah, so I mean, I just eat. I don't restrict anything. I eat. I still do fast food. I just do it rarely, except for McDonald's. I don't do that.
Do you have a drink?
I do. I drink probably every couple of weeks, and typically it's just a couple of beers. What's interesting is the GLP-1 medication is being tested for alcohol use disorder, for alcoholism, because it works on what's called the hedonic part of your brain. So it suppresses your appetite, but people who have alcohol issues or addicted to gambling, who have weight issues, started these GLP-1s, and all of a sudden they're not drinking anymore. They have no desire to drink. People have been drinking their whole life or gamble or whatever. And so in my case, I hadn't been drinking a lot anyway, but now I'm sort of strategic because I care about my overall health. and alcohol is not great for your overall health. And so if I drink, it's because it's a social environment. I still enjoy a beer, and I'll do that every now and then. So
what's next? Just gonna stay, just keep on keeping on type, or is there? Are you gonna take your journey, and is it gonna become? I mean, you're gonna write a book. Are you going to start a motivational speaking career?
Yeah.
Are you going to? I mean, those things are. If they're not on the table, they will be shortly.
I had never intended on talking about any of this stuff with anybody. I am in North Dakota terms, a relatively public figure when it comes to politics. I'm still very active in politics. I'm one of the North Dakota's 4 members of the Democratic National Committee. I'm very active in the DNC on the national level. I'm on the Rules and Bylaws Committee, which is just a few people, and we determine the presidential election calendar. I mean, I'm incredibly active politically and have been, even from afar, I've kept a toe in the water. And so because of that, I was never really going to talk about this stuff. But as you begin to lose significant amount of weight, people notice and they ask for help because they want to do it too. They want to know what you're doing. And often it's because they just want to hear what you do and just copy it exactly, which I hate to tell you is just not the way it goes. You have to do this on your own.
The food noise tip, though, that's legit. I mean, GLP-1 and that kind of stuff may or may not be for you. Like you say, visit with your doctor. You got to go do that all on your own. It's likely going to look different for you than it did for Jamie. But the food noise one, though, I think that's good stuff and translates across everywhere.
So I wasn't going to talk about this, but earlier this year, I think in February, there's a podcast I listen to called Mind Pump, and it's the #1 health and fitness podcast in the world. And I emailed a question. They take viewer questions by email. So I emailed a question to them, which is, I have a lot of loose skin. And you can't see it here because from here up, this is like my best feature, but below I have a lot of loose skin around my stomach, And it's a little difficult. Like here's how I describe the loose skin. Imagine you're wearing a hoodie and with pockets, you have a bunch of stuff in the pockets. And as you're walking, sometimes the hoodie can start to shuffle a little bit and go at a different speed than you. That's what it's like for me with my loose skin when walking or when weightlifting. And so I emailed the question into these guys saying, hey, these guys have trained a lot of people. They're weightlifting dudes, and asked them for advice. And they asked me to come on for Zoom. What they do is you email in, then they invite you in for a Zoom. So I did a Zoom interview with them. And they gave me a little bit of advice and asked me my story. And I told them the story just like I told you. And they've been around for 11 years. They've had almost 3,000 episodes. And they invited me to be on their show, which they'd never done for anyone before.
Oh, wow.
The only guests they have are professional fitness people. So they flew me out to California, and they have a whole 20 people work for them. It's a whole TV studio that they have.
That's not true here. It's just Jamie and I in here. Jacob's out there.
One day, you build up your empire.
One day.
And so I was on that show, and they suggested, because at this point my social media was mostly just me posting pictures of my life and then like ranting on Facebook about politics. And Twitter. And that's about all it was. And they said, look, after this, people are going to be reaching out to you. So I started posting on social media at that point. On TikTok, where now I have like 50-some thousand followers on TikTok. And I mean, I did a little TikTok live stream before I came in here, and I had 1,500 people come through just asking me questions and providing support.
Isn't that crazy?
It's wild. So I do that, and Instagram, I do all this stuff. So basically, I'm doing the social media stuff. It's not a living. I don't really make any money off of it. It's mostly about, I'm aware that my story is sort of unique, and that hopefully I have some communication ability that's now causing people to ask me for help. And I would feel bad. I'd feel guilty if I wasn't using any platform I have to try to at least give people hope that there's a better day for them. Because I am not special. I'm not unique. I'm not some magic person. I was 650 pounds. So clearly there's nothing about me that shows I can be some buff dude. Like, I got to that size. And so I want to be an example in 2 ways. One, if you have been gaining weight slowly over the years, and many of us have, you have to stop. You have to stop, and you have to get help. Because I did not decide to be 650 pounds. I didn't decide to be 500 or 400. It just happens over time where you gain a little bit every year, and then you throw in a couple, age makes it much harder. You throw in something like a COVID where all of a sudden you can't move as much anymore because you're in a situation where, I was working a lot, and you just don't know what the future holds. And so you should not wait until you get anywhere close to my size before you stop it. And then the second type of example I want to be is wherever you're at in terms of your own health, it is not too late to fix it. You can come back from it. And that's why I'm doing all this stuff on social media. That's why I'm talking to you. This is not what I thought my life would become. I've always wanted to help people. That's why I'm active in politics.
Yeah.
I just thought I would help people through politics. I didn't think I was going to help people on social media with learning how to live a healthier lifestyle.
On politics, Democratic Party in North Dakota. Just, if you can, very, very red state. I mean, for those that, and I don't necessarily care to talk about policy, and it's not really what this is. But the question that I have that I think would be maybe germane or helpful to the people that might watch and or listen to this is, I think we're better as a country, as a state, when we have two viable parties that are swapping ideas and compromising, which is a tough word in the world of politics, to try to create a better life for all.
Yeah.
Very red state that we're in North Dakota. So when I think about it, I think, how is the Democratic Party, if I were to ask you what the health of the Democratic Party is doing, how would you answer that question?
It's not great. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I'm a realist, and nationally, we do not control the White House, the House, or the Senate, regardless of what the president and Republicans say about the shutdown happening. That Democrats don't have any power. We don't have any power within North Dakota. We have some ability to influence. I think in North Dakota, we have Democrats that are part of a governing majority, working with reasonable Republicans to get things passed. But I sort of have a national view and a state view on this. And I'm working on both just actively as part of my life. On the national side, we as a party have done a bad job demonstrating to regular folks that we understand their issues. The perception of the Democratic Party is that we care only about sort of the small groups of people. And you can name them based on gender or sexual orientation or race or whatever you want to call it. And Democrats have done a bad job explaining that that's not the case. That just because we want to stand up for the rights of everyone, regardless of how small of a group they are, it doesn't mean that we don't care about everyone else. And so we've allowed the Trump and Republicans to hijack this message that says Democrats, Donald Trump, and I'm not a fan, is a fairly brilliant politician. He knows how to craft a message. When during the campaign he said, Democrats are for they and them and I'm for you. Exceptional message. And it resonated. And the one thing that we have done a very bad job on is realizing it does not matter your gender or how you identify, if you're a man or a woman or non-binary, whatever. Everyone needs a job. Everyone has bills to pay. And it's the thing that applies across the board. And Trump and Republicans, that's what they talk about. And they throw these like shiny things out there that get us distracted from talking about the meat and potatoes issues. So as a national party, we're actively working on ways to change our understanding and our messaging. And a lot of it is spending more time in places like North Dakota, where the national party has, in many ways, has written off rural states and red states. We have a chairman now, Ken Martin, who's from Minnesota. He's been in North Dakota dozens of times, and he gets what we need here as a national party chair. And so it's going to take some time, but we're actively working to change the national party's messaging. On the state level, where we have failed for a number of years, is that we are not doing a good job running candidates everywhere in North Dakota. Even in Grand Forks, in the last election, I think it was district, I don't remember which district it was, we did not fill the slate. Frequently in Grand Forks, we don't fill the slate. Grand Forks used to be the Democratic base of North Dakota.
Mm-hmm.
And we have not been running people in these seats the way that we should. And so what we are committing to as a leadership of the state party is we are going to run people in every single election next year. We've only done it one time in 50 years, and it was 2008, which I can proudly say because I was running the Democratic Party then, and that was my number one priority. I truly believe democracy is at risk right now. But if I, as a leader of the Democratic Party, tell you that democracy is at risk, but then I don't find someone else for you to vote for in your legislative district, what I say to you is meaningless. I can whine all day about democracy, but democracy that's what happens at the ballot box.
Right.
And if you don't have a choice because I'm not finding someone to run, then my words are meaningless. And I'm just being honest, we as Democrats need to start running people. When we do run people, they're generally really good. If you were to step back and look at who are running for office, solid, good people who 10 or 20 years ago would have won. But because we're only running in a few districts, it means that all those Republicans running out west or even in places like Grand Forks are running unopposed. And they're getting tons of lobbyist money, and they're taking all that money they're raising and sending it to places where we are running folks. But if we run someone in every district, even in a Republican red district, they're going to be scared because politicians have one universal defining feature, which is fear of losing. And so they're going to keep that money in their district. And we may not win in Williston or Dickinson or name the city, but by keeping a focus of those people and money out there, it gives us a chance to win in a Grand Forks.
Where do you fall down on term limits?
I'm not a term limit fan. Term limits benefit Democrats in North Dakota now. So thank you, North Dakota, for giving Democrats a better chance, because in 8 years, the Republican Party is going to be wiped out in North Dakota because they own all the seats. And they're going to have to start finding new people to run. And the people they find to run these places are generally not your best. And so there are a lot of good Republicans in North Dakota, including here in Grand Forks. But that's not who they're finding to run in a lot of these places. So I guess in that sense, term limits benefit us. But the reason I don't like term limits is you are taking away the institutional knowledge of the people who've been there for a while.
And a lot of people don't understand that term, and they think it's bunk, or they don't. And I, working in talk radio, became aware of how important that is. And even sometimes if you have a change in office, but the staff stays behind, can be helpful. And I guess that's kind of what we voted for was, change the head shed, but the staff can stay, I suppose. But then if you're staff, you're like, well, what am I sticking around for? To me, I agree with you, but I think it's complicated enough. Do I think it takes 8 years to learn everything? No. But do I think that first couple of years bordering on your first term, depending on what you're doing or where you're at, it certainly can. And by the time you get appointed to a committee, and by the time you start to make inroads in that committee, and by the time you start to figure out what that committee is, you can be through your first term before you're really a viable person in that seat.
There are two groups who benefit the most from term limits, and it's bureaucrats and it's lobbyists. Because if you are a legislator who's new, who's not been there very long, you don't know anything. You're still learning. And that's not a knock on the legislators. That's all of us when we start a new job. And so who do they listen to for advice there? Like the people who know everything, and the longer you've been somewhere, you generally know the most. You've been doing this job for decades. I guarantee you know more than the kid who shows up for his first job. And so if you're new at this, who do you ask for advice? Who do you ask how things work? You ask the bureaucrats who've worked there for years, who are generally good people, but they have a vested interest in keeping their job. Or you ask the lobbyists who are hanging around because that lobbyist has been here for 20 years. Yeah. And so that's who gains power in the world of term limits. But it feels good to vote for term limits because we think it's the legislator who's
new ideas,
the
fresh ideas. Yeah.
And there's probably some benefit. I think they're looking at a proposal now to make it a total of 16 years, which seems okay to me. That seems more reasonable to me. And there probably needs to be something, or else you end up getting Ray Holmbergs, who've been there since before I was born.
Yeah, me too.
And and who, because of that, amass so much power that they become untouchable. And so there's probably some middle ground, but I think we went way too far to one side. And that's the case because some of the people who are responsible for that are in the legislature now, and they're sitting by quietly while that law tries to get changed. Because now that they have power, they don't want to get rid of that power either.
Yeah. Politics, man. I got to tell you. Well, Jamie, before I get you out of here and I let you go, first of all, thank you for doing this. Thank you for sharing your story. Do you want to drop the socials? I mean, I know you've never been a guy that's really been looking for followers or any of that kind of thing, but if people wanted to keep up with your story and see how you're doing, do you have a place that you'd like people to go to see that where, maybe you've evolved to, you got to have a separate Instagram, you got to have a separate TikTok account just for family and friends, but do you have a public way where people can sort of monitor and watch your journey? Yeah.
So the nice thing is I'm the only Jamie Selzler that I'm aware of in the world. That's the nice thing about having two names that are very unique. So you can just search my name on any social media platform. The primary one where I use the sort of the weight loss stuff is TikTok, but I post a lot of the same stuff on Instagram and Facebook as well. You can just go to jselzler.com. I have links to all of them there. Just search for my name on that stuff. And I would be honored if anyone would follow, and you can ask for help and support there. I don't know what the future holds for me in terms of this stuff. You mentioned a book earlier. That's a potential. I like giving speeches. That's potential. I'm almost 50 now. I'm closing in on 50. And it's a weird situation to be in, to be almost 50 and in a new phase of your life, doing things that are very uncomfortable because I'm not a TikToker. Yet here I am with tens of thousands of followers where I'm like posting videos every day. But it's becoming more natural with time. And I feel like I'm really helping people. And so I encourage you to reach out if you need any help. But if not to me, find some voice out there that resonates with you. Talk with a doctor. If you don't like me because of my politics, that's fine. Go find someone else. But the reality is,
think we're more adult than
I would like to think that too. But the reality is that just because I'm saying something doesn't mean that it's true. Find a voice that works for you. It's not too late. Often when you start this health journey, you think like you have to do a bunch of the hard work to get to the end. And at the end, now everything will be better. What I've learned is that there's the journey of this and the destination. Over time, I realized the destination doesn't matter because it really is about the journey. Throughout every process, I have felt significantly better. I remember being 550 pounds, climbing up a hill, feeling like I was the king of the world. I'd never felt better. And then next thing you know, I'm 500 and 450, and now I'm under 300, and there's nothing I can't do physically at this point. When I walk to the car after this, the 30 seconds it takes me, I tell you, I promise you, JT, I'm going to be ecstatically happy the whole time. One, because I got to see you. But two, because it wasn't long ago where that wasn't even an option for me. So I go through my life now. I'm not proud of what I've done. I'm happy, gratified. I am grateful. And when you go through your life grateful for what you have and not for what you lost or could have had or what you might have in the future, it makes everything better. So I encourage people to get whatever help they need to find a way to have that same gratitude that I have, because my life is better in every single way.
The final thing I have for you, when does the skin come off, or are they going to wait until, again, you just talked about the journey and the destination. Some
want a wallet?
Some doctors might say, we want to wait till you're done. So we only have to do this once. Do you have a date set up? And maybe if that's too personal, it's too personal.
No, I'm a totally open book about this stuff. Probably February is when I'll do it.
Did they tell you it's painful? Then it's going to be...
It's going to be really painful. But I tell you, and I really mean this, there's nothing more painful than being 650 pounds.
Roger that.
The hardest day I have now, I could go walk 15 miles right now and then go lift weights, and it's going to be easy compared to an average day I had at the beginning. And so, I'm a typical man, which means any sort of pain I get, I will blow up to make it way worse than it is. But
my wife just gave an amen.
Yeah, of course. I get sick. It's, I might as well be dying in my bed. I'm like every other guy. So early next year, I'll have it, probably February, and whatever my weight is, they want you to stop losing weight for a certain time, but because I've essentially been able to show I can maintain it, the risk of a skin removal surgery is that they take a bunch of skin off and then you either gain a bunch of weight or you lose more weight. So whenever I have the surgery, then I'm going to work harder to stay at whatever that weight is. I imagine I'll be probably 275 when that happens, and I'll be about 250. I don't want to be less than 250. I like being a big guy. I bet you do too.
I do. Something about walking into a room and, I mean, it again, you got to, I mean, you know, like, you've been there, so,
yeah.
But you don't want to be too big of a guy either.
Yeah.
You want to be a healthy big guy, but no, you're right. I don't,
you like
I don't
being
aspire,
a big dude, commanding a room?
I don't aspire to be 165 one day. That would
people
never
say,
be.
"Oh, you're getting skinny." I'm like, "Oh, God, I don't want to
Stop
get skinny." If I end up at 250 pounds after the skin removal and I stay there, then I'll be happy with that. But I'm happy with whatever because I'm alive right now, and there's a good chance I wasn't going to be. I am at 47 years old.
Jamie Selzler, thank you. And again, I will put all of the TikTok and all the things in the show notes so that people can have them for quick reference. But thank you for doing this, my friend. Thank you for driving up. Thanks for being a part of it. And I hope you will do this again with me as things go on. And I'm telling you, it's a heck of a story. And if there's organizations out there that might be interested. I mean, I'm not trying to act as your agent by any stretch.
I was your producer at one point finding guests for you, so yeah.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. I mean, smart, articulate, has got it down. Jamie Selzler is your guy. I just, congratulations,
Thank
man.
you. It's an honor being here. It's cool to get interviewed by you again after all these years. Thanks for the excuse to come up here. So I came to Grand Forks for you. I'm going to stay for the grinder right after.
Jamie, thank you.